Now, our next speaker, before we have our legislative panel, we have somebody very special. Not only as a sports and celebrity agent, not only somebody who's born in the sacred soil of New Jersey from Livingston, but he had his own battle with addiction. And what's so particularly important is that he's come back here to New Jersey to share with his story. And I spend a lot of time with addiction providers, whether it's in Patterson at Turning Point or Ava's Village. I'm going to get in trouble for recognizing him. I see Patricia here from VOA. But part of it is treatment. And Darren is a great celebrity agent, and he's been somebody who's been so focused. In fact, he's got a great best-selling book that he'll sign in the back for all of you interested in purchasing his book. But first, I want to break away to a few seconds before he's introduced on his book, Aiming High. Can you roll the tape for Darren Prince on Aiming High?
You maniacs! Hulk Hogan here, the greatest of all time without a doubt. And I'm all pumped up today, brothers, about a buddy of mine, Darren Prince. He went way over the deep end and reeled himself back in, man, walking the straight and narrow. And I'm so proud of Darren Prince, I can't even tell you. So what you gonna do when Darren Prince runs wild on you?
Your story, your experience is a powerful one, isn't it?
Yep, very much. I was an opiate addict for many years, probably 20 plus years of my life, more than half my life. Accelerate my success in business ultimately became my downfall. Like any other substance, it turned on me. At first, for me, it started when I was a teenager, experimenting, and insecurities, not feeling confident with myself, not feeling comfortable in my own skin, made me feel like Superman. I chased that feeling for many, many years. Then I miraculously, somehow, with the right people, got involved in the entertainment industry with some enormous global superstars. And
to my friend Darren Prince, man, I am so proud of you. I want to say I am so happy that I've seen the change in you, and it's been wonderful. You affected a lot of people's lives, so congratulations.
Darren Prince, you have been there for me through everything. Yes, I'm proud of you. Proud of you for being a man. Proud of you for writing a great book. Proud of you for being one of the most respected agents anywhere on God's green earth. You will always be Darren Prince, a limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing son of a gun. Woo! Darren Prince, Nature Boy. Woo!
It was tough because I also didn't feel worthy. It goes back to that 14, 15-year-old kid. How did Darren Prince, Jewish kid from Livingston, New Jersey, had a great loving mother and father, but still felt like a broken piece of crap? That how am I in the room with these two kings that actually loved and respected me more than I ever loved and respected myself?
Magic Johnson inspiring his friend and agent Darren Prince to write a book, Aiming High, the memoir about Prince's own struggle and recovery from an opioid addiction.
From my pain in life, I found my purpose.
Du Jour magazine and founder Jason Bin celebrating the book's success at Pomona, NYC with Darren's friends and colleagues like Dr. Drew Pinsky.
It took him many more bottoms before he really hit a moment of change. You got to read about it to hear that moment of change.
Thank you so much for writing the book, and please know that as I can help tell the story going forward, it is worth reading.
Introduce Darren Prince.
this is a tremendous privilege to be here today. I flew in from Los Angeles late last night, and there's no other place I'd rather be. I wanted to thank the New Jersey Reentry Corporation and Governor McGreevey again for the honor to be here. I'm here to share the 23-year struggle of the hell of my drug addiction to the beauty of spiritual recovery. I grew up in Livingston, New Jersey, had a great loving mother and father, sister that I'm very close with to this day, a lot of friends. But for whatever reason, I always felt not part of. I always felt different, socially inept, just didn't feel worthy. And I think a lot of it had to do with, at a very young age, I was classified with a learning disability. I was put in very small classrooms, and I was verbally teased quite often, called a lot of different names, really did a number on my psyche and my self-esteem. Made me very insecure. So at 14 years old, when I had my first experience with drugs, I truly think that I was probably a prime candidate to fall victim to addiction. I was at sleepaway camp and had horrible stomach pains. And I said to the counselor, I got to go to see the nurse. My stomach is killing me. She gave me this clear cough syrup cup with this green liquid in it. I took it, tasted disgusting. But within minutes, my life changed forever. You see, I was walking across the softball field back to my bunk. I felt like Superman. Every one of those inadequacies and insecurities I just told you all about went away like that. I felt whole. I felt complete. I felt just as good as everybody else, actually even a little bit better. And I went back to the bunk and the guys were laughing with me, not at me. I became the cool kid, the popular one, the good-looking one, the one that wasn't shy anymore. I was flirting with the girls next to the bunk. Never before did I do that my entire life. So I went to bed that night thinking nothing of it. Woke up the next morning, did all my activities, and I'm lying in bed the very next night at 14 years old, and I'm looking up at the sky saying to myself, that feeling was amazing last night, but I had no stomach pains. So what do? I said to the counselor, I heel over and I said, my stomach is killing me. We've got to go back to the infirmary and see the nurse. I did this for 3 straight weeks, every single night until my mom and dad found out I was taking liquid Demerol. That was the end of that. A few months later, I was back in New Jersey, went to a dentist appointment to get my wisdom teeth removed. 1 in 3 teens that are given opiates at a dentist become addicts. I was one of those 3. I went home, took these pills having no idea what they were going to do. I was obviously in pain. Off to the moon again. Those exact feelings came back. I was a superstar, rock star, anything I wanted to be in that moment. Calling up my friends, I was confident, on top of the world. When the pills ran out 2 days later, I was devastated. So I go downstairs, I go, Mom, my tooth is killing me. We got to go back to the dentist. I think I have an infection. There was no more pain. But as a loving mother, who wants to see their son suffer, right? So she took me back to the dentist. I put the crocodile tears on for him too. He fell for it. Got another 3-4 days worth of Vicodins from him. For the next 5 or 6 years, drugs, alcohol, any substance to affect me from the neck up, you name it, I did it with 0 repercussions. Until at 21 years old, I was arrested 4 times in 6 months. But never once was I at fault. I'd never looked in the mirror. It was always this friend or that friend or bad timing. The police never should have been there. It's the way we think. So the judge in Livingston wound up putting me in this program called the Alliance at St. Barnabas. 1 year I lost my license. He said if I got in trouble again, I was going to jail for 90 days. With a couple days to go in this program, I knew I was home free. So I called my friend Dave up. I said, hey man, I got a great idea. Let's go to the city and celebrate. On the way in, we took a handful of Xanax. We went to a bar. We did these mind eraser shots. Needless to say, our minds were erased. Next thing I know, I woke up in the ER, 90 stitches in my face. He fell asleep behind the wheel, went into a ditch. My face went into the windshield. Stitches everywhere, concussion, broken nose. Who are the first 2 people I see? My mom and my dad, crying that their baby boy is so sick and they could do nothing about it, because that's what addiction does. It destroys families. Did I think I had a problem? Not at all. And I had a lot going for me. I started a very successful baseball card business as a teenager. I got into the sports collectibles industry with a lot of tremendous athletes and celebrities, which eventually became my clients when I started Prince Marketing Group, starting with Magic Johnson. So when I started Prince Marketing Group, I was like, okay, I've got these morality clauses. Let me be smart. Let me stop the illegal drugs, right? I started getting sciatica because the level to perform at such a high level for these icons and perform in the business world brought on a lot of great anxiety and a lot of physical pain. So the smartest plan I thought of, let me go to some doctors and get myself some painkillers. For the next 6-7 years, OxyContin, Vicodin, Percocets were my best friends. For 6 or 7 years, it worked. I'm not going to tell you it didn't. But at one point, What was once living to use, as I like to say, turned out to using to live. I was in a place worse than hell and I had no idea how to get out of it. The addiction took over. I was miserable. I was suicidal. From the outside world, everybody thought I had it all, but from the inside, I didn't want to live one more day. In 2007, February, at NBA All-Star Weekend, I was there with my client, Dennis Rodman. We were supposed to celebrate a big television deal that we did with Mark Cuban, but I had other plans. I had a horrible case of bronchitis, and I called the doctor to the room, who wrote a prescription for Tussinex cough syrup, Vicodin, an antibiotic. On the way back from the pharmacy, I called my then wife. I said, do me a favor, order me 3 vodka, Red Bull, and cranberries, because I'm going to get ready to go out. So I needed a pick-me-up. I took half the bottle of Tussinex, a few of the Vicodins, and down went 2 of the drinks. Within 3 minutes, I'm on the floor. I have no idea what was happening. I was foaming at the mouth. My heart was palpitating out of my chest. I'm looking up at the sky. God, I don't know what the hell I did. I'll never do this again. Ever, please. I'm in and out of consciousness. My heart's racing. My wife obviously freaks out. 911 comes. They knock down the door. Needles in my arm, oxygen mask on my face. As I'm looking up at the sky praying, don't take me. I never made it out that night. I woke up at 3 in the morning. I looked at myself in the mirror and said, you sick bastard. Who does this? Who mixes Tussinex, Vicodin, and vodka, Red Bull, and cranberry? And just like that, I finished the rest of the Tussinex and I took a few more Vicodins and went back to bed. Because to me, it was the alcohol that did it. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. The next week, I finally got the courage to admit I had a little bit of a problem, and I went to an addiction psychiatrist. He told me I was an opiate addict. He put me on something called Suboxone, an opiate blocker. At the same time, I'm on a mood stabilizer, antidepressant, anxiety medication, sniffing Ambien at night before I went to bed, and drinking a couple days a week to the point of blackout because I don't want to feel. I didn't want to live. Always looking for that outside fix that was ultimately the inside job. And then finally, by the grace of God, when I was at my wit's end, and I don't want to wake up anymore, on July 1st, my first God awakening came into my life. My uncle and his then girlfriend were in the 12-step fellowships of recovered alcoholics and addicts. They were visiting New Jersey and spontaneously just stopped by my place to see how I was doing. She never met me before. She said, are you okay? I said, no, I'm not. She goes, what's wrong? And I told her. I felt completely comfortable with this woman to tell her what was going on in my life. She was like, do you know that you're an addict and that your life is unmanageable? I said, absolutely. She's like, do you realize you're powerless and that this will take you 6 feet under? I said, 100%. She goes, do you realize what you've accomplished in the outside world means absolutely nothing, because the disease of addiction doesn't care if you're from Yale or jail or Park Avenue or Park Bench. Amen. I said, absolutely. I said, I'm desperate. I'll do whatever it takes. She put me on a 48-hour detox plan. And on that 48th hour, it was on a Sunday night on July 2nd, I came back to my apartment shaking, the withdrawals. I couldn't take it anymore. Vomiting. All the symptoms that come along with it. I called them up. I said, I can't do this. I'm calling up the doctor. I'm getting what I really need. I'm opiate deficient. My uncle picked up the phone and started screaming, it's the goddamn disease talking, Darren. You got to put your hand up, go to a 12-step meeting and tell these people you're sick and suffering and you need help. I said, there's no way. I've tried them before. Those people aren't for me. I went into the bathroom to take these non-narcotic anxiety pills to help with the cravings. Out came 4 Vicodins. I could have sworn I cleared out every medicine cabinet of all the opiates. For a split second, it seemed like a gift from God and such a tremendous sense of relief. But then on this side, I heard something tell me it's a curse from the devil. I fell to my knees for the first time in my life, shaking, trembling, and crying, and calling out to God to take these chains off me. I can't do this anymore without you. I'm begging you. Take the notoriety, the money, the business. I don't care. I need a single day of freedom. He heard me. because I felt a warmth on my right shoulder, and I heard a voice, "I got you, and you're ready." I stood up. I flushed the pills. I wound up on the computer finding a 12-step meeting on a taxi cab ride over. I looked up at the sky and I said, "Oh my God, for the first time in my life in 23 years, I wanted to stay sober more than I wanted to stay high." And by the grace of God, that date, July 2nd, 2008, is my sobriety date. I walked into a church basement with about 150 to 200 addicts and alcoholics that were all once of a hopeless state of mind, just like myself. With no shame, they said, "Is anybody new here for counting days?" My hand went right up. I said, "I'm sick, I'm suffering, I need your guys' help." And it was amazing. These spiritual brothers and sisters, 1 second, 1 minute, 1 day at a time, made me feel whole little by little. It wasn't about the Magic Johnsons or the Hulk Hogans or the Joe Frazier's or Muhammad Ali's. These people understood me. They taught me about the 5 A's: accountability, attitude adjustment, action, and acceptance. And what I needed to do to work through these underlying issues and to finally build a little bit of self-worth and self-esteem without having to put a drug in my system. I know how important structure and work and a daily routine is for anybody part of the reentry corporation. It's so important, not just for our self-esteem, our psyche, the dopamine levels, to have a purpose, to wake up in the morning. And even if you're not happy where you're at right away, just keep staying sober 1 day at a time, because those opportunities professionally will only grow. I started myself doing these esteemable acts, going to speak at different rehabs, going to schools, raising money for awareness of addiction, alcoholism, and substance abuse. And slowly but surely, these esteemable acts started really making me feel great about myself. And I became super spiritual because of it. And that's when the real blessings happen. Because now as a spiritual being, I want to say what I mean what I say, and not say it mean. I want to try to understand people instead of Darren Prince being understood. I don't want to engage in a moment of controversy or lashing out. Remember, Darren Prince told you this. It's so much better to feel all right than right. The restraint of pen and tongue and emails and everything else. Because a few minutes later, I don't know about you guys, I'm not going to remember what I was angry about if I keep my mouth shut. The amazing gift and the blessing that I wake up for every morning, think about what I can give to the world instead of what I can take and what I can get, is giving this precious gift of recovery away and sending my message across the world and publishing, aiming high. My late father always wanted me to write a book, but I didn't feel comfortable writing about just my business because that's what I do. That's not who I am. Who I am is a sober recovery advocate that's trying to live the best spiritual, sober life 1 day at a time. And with my spiritual brothers and sisters' help, and I got to give it up to God, which I believe my book, Aiming High, in the first 2 weeks became an international bestseller in 4 countries. But life isn't without its challenges. None of us are immune to it. Just because I got sober, it doesn't mean that it's going to get amazing or it's going to get better right away. But I got better. My perspective and perception on everything in life changed. I started looking at everything as the glass is half full instead of half empty. I'm a member of the No Matter What Club. No matter what happens in my life 1 day at a time, I do whatever I can do to stay sober. I've been through divorce, recently a broken engagement, health issues, lost Muhammad Ali and Smoking Joe Frazier, who were very near and dear to me in recovery. But the beautiful thing about that, when I got those 2 kings in a room in 2002, I was high as a kite on opiates because I didn't feel worthy. But I got to go to their funeral as a sober, present human being. And And my father got 8.5 years with his sober son. What a blessing. During that time, I remember I never felt so comfortable during the most uncomfortable time of my life. That's the program. That's the fellowship. I've been honored at Turning Point, been on Dr. Oz. I've been to the White House several times to help send a message to children, preventative message that don't be Darren Prince. Don't put a drink or a drug or a substance in your system just to fit in. If you feel unworthy, if you have self-esteem issues, lack of confidence, if you're being bullied, speak up. Don't wait for the train to crash like it did with me. I'm going to end it with this. I'm not exactly who I want to be. I'm not yet where I want to be. But thank you, God, I'm not the person I used to be. Thank you.